Once upon a time, I thought everyone had a voice in their head telling them to kill themselves. It didn't even occur to me that they didn't have such a voice, so enmeshed with my own voice. It's been my closest and most constant companion. I can even remember it telling me to step in front of a train when I was 4. I was barely old enough to understand the concept of death, and the voice spoke in non-threatening terms. You should jump on the train tracks and see what happens. As young as I was not entirely certain what would happen, but I knew it wouldn't be good. So I did my best to placate the voice, which could get pretty loud if I didn't give it attention, and I fell into the habit of arguing with it. Thankfully, I won those arguments and continued winning them throughout my childhood and adolescence, well into my adulthood. By the age of 28, however, a troubling thing began to happen. The voice began to make sense. The idea of killing myself or otherwise doing myself harm began to seem very attractive. I began losing the arguments because I couldn't see the point of arguing anymore when the voice was clearly in the right. One morning, just after starting my shift at a high-volume call center, I was in the middle of a routine status call when I looked down at my cup of coffee and had the strongest urge to drive my face down toward my desk, impaling my right eye on the little red stir. The urge was so strong and felt so sensible and right, made me feel so giddily ecstatic, that the idea of not doing it made me feel disoriented and almost vertiginous. I had to mute the call to ask the woman at the next desk if it would be a good idea to impale my right eye on the stir. From her reply, I gathered it was not. It was then that I began monitoring my thoughts and emotions, and in so doing realized that I might need some sort of help. Only I was afraid that whomever I went to would tell me there was nothing wrong with me that pulling myself up by my bootstraps couldn't cure. That constant moodiness and suicidal thoughts were something everyone had, and that I should just man up and deal with it. That was not my counselor's diagnosis. On my first visit, after I described a lifetime's worth of symptoms, she told me that I did indeed have an illness, bipolar disorder. I was completely floored. My mood swings were the results of a chemical imbalance. The up in the rafters highs and down in the basement lows, the rages, the irritability, the crying jags, the insomnia, and the tendency to self-medicate were textbook symptoms. Aside from peppering my counselor with questions, I did a little e-search and discovered a surprising, strangely comforting thing. Also known as manic depressive illness, bipolar disorder is characterized by severe and disabling highs, mania, and lows, depression. Affecting 2.2 million Americans, this illness typically begins in adolescence or early adulthood and continues throughout life. With proper treatment, most people with bipolar disorders are able to lead fulfilling and productive lives. And that came from the Stanford School of Medicine, 2012. So I could, with medication and counseling, live an emotionally balanced life. More importantly, I wasn't alone. There were millions of people like me, some quite famous and influential, and some living quiet, emotionally healthy lives. I'm still struggling to be the latter, but I know it's possible. A healthy life is always a work in progress. Tough to achieve and even tougher to maintain, but well worth it. If you think you or someone you know is suffering from a form of bipolar disorder, there's help out there, literally just a mouse click away. There are many websites with reliable information and strong communities built to give emotional and psychological support, including the following: dbsalliance.org, nami.org, nationalbipolarfoundation.org, ncbi.nlm.nih.gov, and also of note, famousbipolarpeople.com. Some with bipolar go on to live ordinary lives, it's true. But some of us go on to live extraordinary lives indeed, once we have learned to harness and direct our moods. But it's entirely up to you how you decide to handle your disorder. Just remember, you are bigger than your disorder. You are bigger than your moods. You are the one with the power. You are the one with the control. and you are not alone.